All right. We are back with the second half of the recording. So, hello to everyone who is watching in the future. We just finished the first half of the training with Alicia, who was talking about defining personal brands and how we can stand out. Now we're into the second half, which is my personal favorite part of personal branding, which is storytelling, and not even of personal branding, of life itself, to be honest, is storytelling, because I'm telling you, Sapphire and Ariel, who are here with us live, and those of you who are watching in the future, once you can tell a compelling story, you can do absolutely anything you want in this world and you can win over anyone. So let me just spotlight my video so you can see me. So hi everyone, my name is Bami Kate. You can follow me on Instagram at Bami Kate, where you get the full authentic version of myself. And then you can also check me out on Instagram, on LinkedIn, Bami Kate. Just search me up on LinkedIn there and we can connect, or send me a DM and you can see more how I portray my personal brand in more of a professional quote unquote sense. So let's jump into storytelling, because storytelling is so important for when you want to maintain your personal brand. Like Alicia was talking about, people who maintain their personal branding for years and years and years and years do so by telling these compelling stories. When I say the name, Facebook, most of us think about Mark Zuckerberg. And I'm sure all of us know the story about Mark Zuckerberg. He started, his career in Harvard and started just doing this as a platform for Harvard to try and have those students at that prestigious university to be able to connect. If I say Amazon, we all think of probably that richest man in the world, right? Jeff Bezos, and how he started Amazon in 1993 in his garage with just a sign that said Amazon. And we remember these stories. We don't just remember the companies. So it's so important, regardless of if you want to start a new company or you want to get a new job, that you can tell incredible stories online. So the best way to tell an incredible story is to have a good framework that gives you flexibility. So I'm really encouraging you to take notes during this part, because we are going to have an activity shortly as well. So you want to set the scene with your story. So I'm going to share my story as I'm going through this framework so that you can truly understand how this works. So you always want to set the tone first. So set up the tone of where you are, who exactly is involved in this story. Just give us a little bit of background. So I always start my story with the part just before we get to the climax. So just before I start working at Google and the type of person I am. So I usually start my story with, I was 22 years old. I just graduated from University of Toronto and I got this incredible job at Google. They even flew me over and paid me a large sum of money to literally move all my belongings from Toronto all the way to Ireland. And I was so excited about this, new career. I kept watching the movie The Internship, which has employees working at Google going down slides into a ball pit. And I just thought, okay, I'm literally going to live my dream. It wasn't until, and then I come into the next part of the story, where I come off the plane in Dublin and I see that there's writing all over in Irish. I thought it was in Gaelic Irish language. I thought it was Arabic or something. I was like, did they drop me in the wrong place? Like, am I definitely in Ireland? And then I start talking a little bit more about how I'm meeting these characters in Ireland and realizing that it's not quite the diverse place that I expected it to be, like my previous hometowns as Toronto and London, where I'm used to seeing people from all different types of walks of life. So that's when I start setting the scene a little bit deeper and I'm drawing you into my story. And then we move on to the conflict. This is where I walk into my first day at work. I'm nervous, but I'm also a little bit excited. At this point in my story, if I'm doing a presentation, I'll usually show a picture, because I have a picture of my first day at work. This way that people can really understand what I meant by showing that there was a lack of diversity in the company. So I go ahead and show, like, look at me. You can see that I'm clearly standing out from the crowd, that no one is really looking like me at all. Like, I just look like standing out like a sore thumb pretty much. So I start to say that has caused not only internal conflict with myself, but then also external conflict, because I don't feel as comfortable being my full self. So it's like every time I'm doing something, I'm thinking twice. And that makes people think, yo, is this girl okay? Like, is she a weirdo, or does she just hate it here in this company? So that's the conflict. Then after I move on to say, in order to help me overcome this conflict of me starting to suffer with my self-image, with my mental health, suffering with anxiety and depression, and really not going into work at all. Literally, I took for my 6 month at work, I took that whole month off. I'll never forget it. Had a whole month off of sick leave because I just could not physically get back to Dublin and go to work. And from there came my big idea, Bam Bam Boogie, a way that I can encourage people, not only new joiners to Google, but people who already work at Google, people like who look like me or they look a bit different, who can feel included and they can feel, like they can network in the space and they can feel like they are truly part of not just Google organization, but kind of a closer knit community that feels like a family. And that's why I start Bam Bam Boogie. And from there, Bam Bam Boogie starts to become the fastest growing Googler-led event at different Google campuses. I'm invited to Vegas, to London, to Toronto, even to Brazil to go and speak at huge conferences in front of thousands of people and energize them with this Bam Bam Boogie formula that I have created. And then the resolution is that I've changed over tens of thousands of women around the world lives through my Bam Bam Boogie program. I have also created a instructor course whereby now we have 26 franchisees across the world who teach these twerk after work classes, which is so, so exciting. And the resolution is that, now I've expanded and I do this full time and I no longer work at Google. So that's kind of a long-winded version of my story because I'm explaining to you each different part and why it's so important to the story. So we start off with me in Dublin, not loving life, all the way to the big idea, to the resolution. Now, remember, people don't listen. I need you to really remember that. People do not listen. As much as you want them to listen to you, they don't. So out of that story, most people probably hear Google, twerking, now runs her own business. I'm pretty sure that's what they get from the story overall. And that's perfect because that's all I need them to know. I used to have a job, like a high flying job that anyone would say is the best job in the world. I decided to quit it because I was not happy. And now I'm happy running my own business. That's all they need to know. So I'm going to teach you today how you can go ahead and tell a compelling story too. But most importantly, practice makes perfect. So what we're going to do is we are going to have a little practice session. And I'm actually so happy that this is a smaller session today with just Alicia, Sapphire, and Ariel here live, because what we want to do is we really want to help you and support you in your storytelling journey. Because the more that you tell your story, actually, the better that it's going to become. So I want you to spend the next 5 minutes drafting a rough beginning, middle, and end of your main personal brand story of how you got exactly to where you are today. And make sure that this really aligns with the framework that I shared with you earlier. Let me go back here. So we want to start off with the setting. First of all, so we're starting off with the setting. So where exactly did you start your story? Was it that you were born in the UK, in London? Where exactly were you? Then start to flesh it out with the different characters. Were you really inspired by your parents? Maybe your parents, had a job being a doctor, for example, and then that made you want to be a doctor. But then there may have been some conflict because you didn't get the grades, for example. Start to really tell us and set that foundation. So I'm going to give you the next 5 minutes. I'm going to leave this on the screen here so that you have the next 5 minutes to really go through this. And please let me know if you have any questions. Just put them in the chat or go ahead and shout at me if you have any questions. And then we're going to come back and share in the next 5 minutes. So let's go ahead and start with that setting. If you don't feel comfortable to do it 5 minutes alone, we can do it live on here. I can choose one of you and we can do it live. So let me know in the chat now whether you want to do it individually or you want me to coach you on your story and give you that support. Feel free to turn on your mic and put it on the chat. So option 1, work on it on your own. Option 2, we can do it collectively and I can kind of coach you through how to have a much better story. Let me know. Which one would you prefer, Sapphire or Ariel? Let me know, or both of you. Let me know in the chat. 1, work on it alone. Perfect. Thanks, Sapphire. Ariel, you happy to work on it alone as well? And then we'll come back and share. Right, I'm taking that vote as the final vote. So I'm putting on a 5-minute timer now. Feel free to message me personally if you want to on this Zoom chat. The 5-minute timer is starting now. I'm going to pause the recording now for everyone. We'll see you back after the 5 minutes and unpause the recording. Okay, so welcome back, everyone. I hope that you were able to spend some time there really fleshing out the rough draft of your story. I would love to have at least one person share today. And if you don't feel comfortable, feel free to type your story to me and then I can share it for you. That's no problem. Otherwise, I'm going to put Alicia on the spot and she's going to have to share hers. So be ready for that. So let's have a look. We have here the framework that we worked on, the setting, characters, conflict, big idea to resolution. Now let's do our practice makes perfect. So Sapphire, I'm going to call on you because you put in the chat that you didn't mind working on it solo. So are you there with us? Yes, perfect. Would you like to turn on your microphone or type it? Perfect. Thank you. So Sapphire is going to type for us her story, and then I'll go ahead and share it out. If anyone has any constructive feedback or they want to support Sapphire on how we can improve their story, yeah, let's do this. For those of you watching this recorded, feel free to connect with myself and Alicia on LinkedIn if you do want any feedback on your story. You can just send us a quick message on LinkedIn and we'll be happy to look at your story and give you any feedback just because you're not able to be here live to get the direct feedback. We're just waiting for Sapphire to type their story nice and detailed in the chat. And then, yeah, we'll go from there. All right, so Sapphire has typed their story. I'll go ahead and read it out. Thank you so much for sharing, Sapphire. So I am the first in my family to go to university and chose a university that aligned with what I wanted to have around me, but also what I wanted to study. Since I graduated, I saw an internship which really set the tone of what I wanted from my career. Okay, so it seems like what Sapphire has done here is they very lightly outlined what they want to share in their story. However, there's one key part missing. I want to go back to remind you of the framework. So there's one key part that's missing. Does anyone in the chat want to just comment? What do you think is the key part of this framework that I have in front of us? Which part do you think is missing from Sapphire's story? And I'll repeat it one more time. So I am the first in my family to go to university, and I chose a university that aligned with what I wanted to have around me, but also what I wanted to study. That sounds to me like the setting, right? And the characters. Since graduation, I sought an internship which really helped me set the tone of what I wanted from my career. To me, that sounds like the resolution. So which parts are missing there?
So it sounds like the characters and the conflict are missing.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Alicia. So we're missing a bit more about the characters, the conflict, and on top of that, even the big idea, we're missing what made you to get this internship? You know, what big idea happened that made you get this internship? So was it that you did an extracurricular course? Is it that you were the president of a type of society? What was the big thing that helped you? We're looking for that juicy part because the big idea is it's the juiciest part of the story. So I encourage you, Sapphire, you don't have to do it right now, but feel free, like I said, to message us on LinkedIn with the final result. But what is the big idea that allowed you to get to this internship, that really gave you that clarity for the internship, right? Like, so I'll repeat a couple of ideas again. So was it that you were president of some type of society? Was it that you met up with someone, one of your family's relatives, maybe an uncle or an aunt, and maybe you sat down with them and they helped you get the internship? Like, what's the big idea? Like, what's that conflict that happened, that big idea that made you think, eureka, like I'm gonna get an internship? And that's kind of helping you now further yourself in your career. Have a think about that. If you find the conflict before the end of this training, please feel free to type it in. We would love to hear what happened to make you sort out this internship. What even made you think about getting an internship and not just going straight into, a regular full-time role? Give us a little bit more spice. We really want to know the juicy bits. So please let us know that if you can before the end of the training. Otherwise, go ahead and message us on LinkedIn. Ariel, also feel free to share. I'm not going to put any pressure, but you can message one of us privately as well. But I would love to hear more about you and your story. So I am going to move on from practice makes perfect. But remember, keep telling this story over and over, because the more you tell your story, the better it will become. And this is what's going to help you get those jobs, like what Alicia said. It's going to help you stand out online and create content that always relates back to your personal brand. So how exactly, now we have our stories, well, most of it, at least the bare bones of it, how exactly do we tell the compelling story online? Now, ever since the pandemic, or I like to call it a panoramic, we have had to kind of shift the way that we tell stories, and also just shift the way that we operate in general. So now we have jobs that are completely remote and 100% online. You don't even see your coworkers in an office because there isn't one. So we have to work out, how do we tell our stories compellingly online versus offline? So I'm going to start with online because I feel like that's where I really flourish. Like, I mean, I kill it at both, but online is really where I've had to tell my story the most. So choose one main story and stick to it. Just like Sapphire shared with us earlier, thank you so much. That is going to be Sapphire's main story. And it's about sticking with that story and developing it as time goes on. Maybe at one point you need to get into a little bit deeper about, your family history. It's like, do you come from a family of immigrants, or do you come from a family that's always lived in the same place and they've never moved? That's why they've never gone to university. Depending on your audience, you really want to get a bit deeper into the story, but still stick with the major framework that we've looked at. Ensure there's a clear introduction, concise middle, and big bang ending. Once again, going back to Sapphire's story, because I loved it. There's a clear introduction and there's a big bang ending. We were missing the concise middle. We want to know a little bit more about that conflict and what really happens to even push you over the edge and go from not only being the first to go to university, being the first to graduate, and then get an internship. Because to me, that's incredible. And if I was your parents, I would be extremely proud of you. Continually go back to this story. So when you're telling your story online, it's important to always go back to it. Like, I feel that my followers always are getting tired of me saying, I used to work at Google. But listen, they're going to get tired because they need to hear it. It's part of me. It's part of my story. So I'm always, in anything I do, I can be talking about twerking and having the best time ever, and I'll always go back to when I was at Google. I used to twerk on my desk, or I used to twerk on my lunch break. I used to twerk in the bathroom when I was like crying my eyes out, stressed. So these are the things you always want to pull back to, that story, as it will help people get to know you better and feel as though they are part of your community. You almost want to make people feel as though they're your friend. Even recruiters want friends. Even people, CEOs want new friends, and they want to work with people that they can feel comfortable, going on a business trip with for a weekend, or going for after work drinks, or for team events. So always pull back to that story. And like I said earlier, develop your story over time through a series of, pictures, blogs, videos. Like Alicia said, build up your content that you have online, because literally recruiters are looking for you online. They're searching you. They're not just looking at your LinkedIn. So the more content that you have, the better. And the more you can bring your story into your content, you're killing it. Connect your story with your goal. So what did I put as an example here? The story of getting into university, which kind of related to your Sapphire, after many failed attempts, now leading to an entry-level job. So always connect your goal with the story. So for example, if I'm looking for more corporate clients in order to train them in diversity, equity, and inclusion, I'm going to tie back to my story. Hey, I used to work at Google and I had to quit because I did not feel included. That's my pitch to these employers and letting them know, hey, I have experience. I've lived this, I've left. So you need to hear from me and you need to be part of my community that I'm building of different clients because I have the experience firsthand. And I'm telling you, this is what diverse employees need. And last but definitely not least, this one is a really good tip. Share your story in small niche groups, Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups. If you're into travel, share it in travel groups. If you're into makeup, share it in makeup groups. Like find specific, if you're a single mom, go and find single mom groups because these are the people that are going to support you based on common interests. Like the more that you share with someone in terms of interest, the better relationship's going to be. Now, online and offline, although it's different, you can still use some of the tactics I shared for online for offline. So I'll just briefly go through offline, which is introduce yourself via storytelling. So instead of just saying like, oh, hi, my name is Bami, go ahead and say, oh, if someone mentions something in a circle at a networking event and they're just talking, 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 and I feel like, okay, I want to introduce myself. I can say, oh, what, really? I never knew that you were also interested, that you also went to a university in Toronto, because so did I. I went to the University of Toronto and then I graduated and got a job at Google and moved to Dublin. That's how I ended up here at this networking event. And then I can say, my name's Bami Kate, by the way. We should connect on LinkedIn. So you're really drawing them in with that story. Don't always just go in straight with, hey, I'm this person. Tell them a story because I promise you, after you've mentioned, you know, those two key points that I mentioned for my story, which was Google and Toronto, someone's going to say, oh, I have family in Toronto, or oh, I use Google every day. Okay, amazing. Also, read the room. Very important to read the room and who you're talking to because different people will want to hear different parts of your story. Connect to those with similar interests. That matches to sharing your story in small niche groups online. It's just doing it offline. So if you are at a networking event, for example, and there's a section which is for people who have graduated from university, and there's a section for people who haven't. If you've graduated, go ahead and mingle with other people who graduated so that you can connect with them based on uni life, uni stories. Ask open-ended questions. So open-ended questions aren't questions that have yes or no answer. So it's the opposite of that. So instead of saying to someone, oh, do you live in London? And when someone can just say no, and then the conversation is ended, you can say, oh, where do you live? And that is like they can start talking about where they live. Use buzzwords based on the industry. So for the work that myself and Alicia do when we're looking at our diversity, equity, and inclusion stream, we really talk about, you know, diversity, inclusion. Those are keywords that we always need to use. So we always use those in our storytelling. Be concise and choose the most relevant part of your story and come prepared with different experiences. Don't just have your one story and then get thrown off. So for example, have a light-hearted story, a fun story about when you might have, you know, lost something and then you had to go and find it and then you realize that, hey, my cell phone was in the fridge, something like that. Or an invest in me story because you're so amazing, one that really promotes how amazing you are. Have different parts of your story that you want to expand on based on who you're talking to. Now we're moving on to how to invest in your personal brand. Because once you've taken that time to tell those stories and really tell a compelling story that you are proud of, it's time to invest in your personal brand. And I put at the bottom here, time investment is greater than a monetary investment because it is, I promise you. Investing time, just like coming to this workshop, give yourself a round of applause, do a little happy dance, because that's you investing time into your personal brand. That's the first step. It's much better than going out and spending, you know, £300 or whatever it is on Pretty Little Thing, trying to find new outfits to tailor your personal brand and take pictures on Instagram, because that's not going to make an impact. What's really going to make an impact is you spending time creating content, which is going to help get you discovered. Things like blogs, how-to blogs, and like support blogs that teach people something always do well on SEO. SEO stands for search engine optimization, which put in very simple terms is what shows up when you Google something. So when someone Googles twerk classes London, I always want my business to show up first. So how do I do that? I make sure that I'm sharing content on all different platforms. That's, using the hashtag twerk, how to twerk, how to shake, how to become confident in twerking, how to become a confident dancer. So many things so that once someone searches that term, that's all that comes up. So here are some ideas that you can use to invest in your personal brand. Some of them are different, like write reviews. You would think, how is writing a review investing in your personal brand? It is, because when someone Googles your name, depending on how many reviews you've written and you put your name there, your name is going to come up. So if you've written a really lovely review for a business course that you are part of, even this today, you might have written a review for us today, that will come up. And then a recruiter could be like, oh, wow, this sounds like a lovely person. And then that's you really contributing not only to the person who did the workshop or the service or the business, but actually you're also contributing to your own personal brand online, because people can see how you even write. Blogs are not dead. People always try and say that blogs are dead. They are definitely not dead. They really, really help when you are trying to be found on the internet. If you're more of a confident person on video, make videos. If you don't like being seen on video, you can speak and make a podcast. If you don't like the sound of your voice, go ahead and start typing blogs online or leaving reviews. The most important thing I want you to remember from this slide is that you need to help others. You need to create things that are going to help others. So I'm always going to go back to Sapphire's story because, like I said, I'm just feel so connected to it. If Sapphire said that they are the first person in their family to go to university or graduate university, write a blog on that. How I was the first person in my family to graduate from university and how you can do the same. Because trust me, there are many people who want to do. Remember, there are so many people who want to be in the position that you're in right now. Like, you're never too early in your career. You're never too early in your stage to share your story and to help someone else. So like it says at the bottom with the helping hands, just help someone. That's all you need to do. So how do you define your personal brand? This is our last exercise of the day, and I'm only going to give you 2 minutes to do it. I've done this exercise numerous times at numerous different business courses, and trust me, 2 minutes seems like it's quick, but seems like it's quick, but it goes by very slowly when you're trying to think about yourself and how you would define your own personal brand. So let's get straight into it. I'm going to put a 2-minute clock on the timer. And I just want you to start write it out for yourself. You can write it in your notes, send yourself an email, just start writing out. What's the first words that come to you when you think about your personal brand? All right, time is going on in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Last activity from the day. You've got this. And those of you who are watching this recorded, like I said, go ahead and message us on LinkedIn if you want any feedback on how you define your personal brand. Myself and Alicia Richardson will be more than happy to help you and support you on this journey. So please feel free to message us at any time. So how do you define your personal brand? Just quick words, quick words. 30 seconds is already done. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds left. How do you define your personal brand right now in the way that it is right now? Quick, short words. It might be fun, exciting, boring, inspirational. I don't know. Go ahead and just write the first words that come into your mind. Quick, quick, quick. We don't want to think about it for too long, because this is likely, if you define yourself this way, this is likely how other people are seeing you as well, or at least how you want them to see you. So take your time. You've got this. 1 minute left. I told you, time is ticking. Okay, and that's it. Time is up. All right, so this is our last activity. So I want everyone to just take a moment and to type a couple of words in the chat that came to mind. Go ahead and get typing. I'm even going to find the chat box and I'm going to write mine. All right, ready, set, go. Write in just the first few words that came to mind. You can write the top 3 words that came to mind. All right, I've put mine in there. Fun, exciting, inspirational. Thank you, Sapphire. We've got empathetic, adaptable, collaborative, resourceful, friendly. I think we need your resume. I think we need your CV, Sapphire, because we definitely want to get you hired. So yes, that's amazing. Please connect with us on LinkedIn. Loving these. Resourceful, friendly, ambitious. Let me send over Alicia's because she sent it to me privately. Fun, free. Oh, thanks, Alicia. Fun, free, relatable. I love it. See, this is why myself and Alicia work together, because we're both fun. We both put fun as the first one that we do. That is amazing. And remember these buzzwords when you are talking about yourself and you're telling your story. It's like, you know what? I got this internship because I'm resourceful and I'm extremely friendly, yet so ambitious. Like, use these words and channel these words into your daily life, because this is exactly what you want the world to know you for. So thank you so much for joining. I just wanted to end this training with the fact that you need to remember that personal branding is not static. It's not something that you do, you put it on the wall and say, that's my personal brand. I'm done. I'm out of here, not looking at it again. It's something that's going to change over time, and it will also change in different environments depending on what you're trying to promote at that given time. But the most important thing, regardless of how your story shifts, is that it stays true to who you are, and it stays true to who you are as a person in that present moment. Don't let your personal brand stray and be too far away from who you are in real life. Because trust me, just like Alicia said earlier, people will recognize it, because you'll meet someone in real life and then you'll check them out online and say, hey, these two do not match at all. I don't know if I trust this person. Anytime that happens to me, because I've been around a lot of different influencers, and every time I look them up online before we meet, and then I meet them and they're a completely different person, and I'm just, every time I see their posts, I'm like, I have to unfollow you, because this is not authentic. This is not genuine. And I do not want to be around people, have that energy around me of people who are fake and phony. So please, please, please remember that your personal brand can change, but make sure it stays true to who you are, at least a part of who you are, because then people will always want to stay close to you and want to hire you. So thank you so much for listening to myself and Alicia. Like I said, let's continue this conversation on LinkedIn. Like, please, let's do it. You can see more of my amazing profile pictures. And does anyone have any questions for myself or Alicia? Please feel free to share them now in the chat. And if not, like I said, LinkedIn is where we are at. Continue to message us on LinkedIn, shoot us questions. You can even message me on Instagram, that's no problem. We'll be happy to answer any of your questions. So I'll just give it one more minute to see if anyone has any last questions for us. Thank you so much, Sapphire, for being so engaging. Thank you, Ariel, for coming.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate your time. And thank you to all those who've watched the recording as well. I hope you found it helpful. And like what Bami said, feel free to drop me a message on LinkedIn, ask me any questions. I'm always open to helping.
Awesome. Have a great rest of your day or your evening, and we'll see you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.